Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse. And yeah, I got nothing. This week's a mess. And it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. You know, I said about a month or so ago that 2023 appears to be a slower year, at least in the Hot 100, and I got some pushback by pointing at all the new debuts and a bit of a chart shakeup when Miley Cyrus took over the number one. But ever since then, I think my thesis is holding true, because not only does the top 10 feel somewhat stagnant, the upper echelon of the Hot 100 isn't really moving. The new arrivals aren't seeing that much penetration, and the last album bomb we had was back in December. Yes, I know that Morgan Wallen is coming, might as well savor this while we can, and we're likely to see a new number one just coming up next week. But if you've been picking up that I've been kind of underwhelmed by the Hot 100 in 2023 thus far, well, it's because I am. No way around it. Hate to say it. But you know what? I think the top 10's a major culprit in that, because, once again, Flowers by Miley Cyrus is still at number one. It might be falling back on streaming, but when the radio keeps dumping in more spins to compensate, the margins might be on the downswing, but beating this is going to be a tall order, and I don't think Kill Bill by SZA is the answer at number two. Yes, she's got better streams, and the radio's got tangible traction, but she's just not beating the margins. That's got to be frustrating. Then we got Boy's a Liar Part 2 by Pink Pantheress and Ice Spice at number 3, which, yes, it rules streaming right now, but this is where slow radio growth is really going to hurt this, because I honestly don't see this song getting the massive industry push to get to number one. Even if I do think it's kind of impressive, it beat out Creepin' by Metro Boomin, 21 Savage and The Weeknd down at number 4, because despite a tangible push on streaming and the radio, the margins to go further might be too wide. Then we got Last Night by Morgan Wallen at number 5. Apparently this has been shipped to pop radio instead of country. It's going to be interesting to see if that drives traction alongside the massive streams and great sales. But the bigger and more important story comes with Die For You by The Weeknd up to number 6, because this is projected to go to number 1 next week, or at the very least be very competitive for it with the Ariana Grande remix. I'm personally a little skeptical given the instabilities on the radio and how the streaming has never really been there. But hey, I would like to be surprised for once, especially as it just rolled past Unholy by Sam Smith and Kim Petras at number 7, which is now in full retreat across the board. Then there's Antihero by Taylor Swift holding at number 8, which has enough margins to lose while not really seeing any impact on its position. And that might be a similar case for Cuff It by Beyonce at number 9, which was wavering all week. And I'm Good Blue by David Guetta and BB Rexa at number 10, which is just bleeding airplay. Just not fast enough. Speaking of which, our losers and dropouts, where in the latter category, honestly, there's not much notable at all. Yeah, all the Rihanna returns from last week, but really, it indicates how little staying power so many songs have had this year, if they're just coming and going without making much mention. Granted, our losers are kind of a mess here. Off the debut, Love You Anyway by Luke Combs took a respectable dip to 38, and Lost by Linkin Park fell sharply to 74, and again, Rihanna saw her bounce fade for Lift Me Up going down to 52. But then we got a bunch of continued losers. Ex Si Volvemos by Karol G and Romeo Santos to 91, although it might get a bounce next week thanks to her album. That's a possibility. Everything I Love by Morgan Wallen's down to 80, and Shut Up My Mom's Calling by Hotel Ugly continuing to lose its virality at 98. Now the rest... Blind by SZA at 93, La Jumpa by Archangel and Bad Bunnies at 97, and OMG by New Jeans dipping down to 89. Outside of Blind being an album bomb remnant, all these songs are seeming to sputter out before getting any real traction at all. But okay, what's actually breaking through? Well, in our returns, Trance by Metro Boomin, Travis Scott, and Young Thug's back at 76 for some reason. Apparently it may be having a TikTok moment, I'm not sure, but I gotta be honest, I just don't know what to make of our gains. Alright, Next Thing You Know by Jordan Davis got a nice bump to 67, Guess Music Row's getting behind it. And I guess if Painting Pictures by Superstar Pride is going viral, it makes sense that it rocketed up to 34 off the debut, even if I'm not convinced it's at its staying power when you go beyond even the basics of its polish. But then there's Dawns by Zach Bryan and Maggie Rogers rebounding to 43. Apparently it's now catching fire on streaming. That's about the last thing I could have expected for this song. song. Now granted, pretty much everything with Zach Bryan's career falls in that territory, but Dawn's is strange even for him. I'm gonna be very curious how far this goes, or if it actually lasts. But now onto a pretty healthy list of new arrivals. I don't really have any faith in any of them lasting, but alright, let's get this started with number 99, Gold by Dierks Bentley.
I got a rhinestone sky and a song in my soul. It ain't a smooth ride life, it's a winding road. Yeah, it might be gravel, but it feels like gold.
So Dierks Bentley put out an album. It's his first in 5 years, not counting the stint with Hot Country Nights. If it's interesting, I'm probably going to cover it. And hell, I was happy to see a single crossover, even if this was released properly last summer, and I can't say I'm that impressed with it. Yeah, it sounds warm and organic with the acoustics and the crisp live drums, but even well blended, that hand clap sounds fake, and it's hard to escape the feeling of Dierks Bentley going through the motions with a very obvious commercial cash-in. Yes, he has certainly made worse versions of a song like this, but he doesn't sound that engaged, and the broad sentiments of learning to cherish where you are just feels a little bit basic in how it's written here. I know he can put together more interesting material. I mean, I'm not going to complain if this comes on the radio, but I'm also going to forget this in record time. Just saying. Number 96, Slut Me Out by NLE Choppa.
Slut, slut, slut me out. Rip out my shirt if you love me. Spit in my face when you fuck me. Play with my goose while you suck me. Eat the dick like you was ugly.
Okay, when the folks I know who tolerate NLE Choppa were saying that this was really bad, I had concerns. Hell, with that title, I had concerns. This could go in any number of disastrous ways, especially given that this song first dropped nearly a year ago, and wow, this thing is bad in a way that we do not see very often. I'll give the production some credit for being better balanced than you would expect with that weird whir behind the flimsy hi-hat, snare, and bubbling bass, but that is ruined by NLE Choppa's painfully clunky flow and a string of sex references where it sounds like he needs sex explained to him. What's so bizarre is that it has the feel of someone who really wants to come across as dominant in the bedroom, but has no idea how to sell it well, putting aside how the whole hook is literally slut me out, which might be the worst possible way to describe going above and beyond, because it sounds like you're getting pimped. He then tells this girl to bring a friend because she's not enoughy. He then also tells her to hush it like some kidney beans and to suck my balls come chickpea me. Apparently, NLE Choppa has gone vegan and really wants to make it a thing in his rhymes, because he also has the line that his nut tastes like sugar gravy. Then we get the lines about putting her ass in his face until he gets pink eye, and that he doesn't come quick because he controls his bladder. Glad to know that NLE Choppa does not apparently understand biology either. You know what? I started thinking that this had to be a joke. But again, NLE Choppa doesn't have the delivery or flair to make this sound like WAP. Honestly, it makes way too much sense when you realize that he first leaked this song back in 2021 on a stream with Aiden Ross. This is hilariously bad. For everyone's sake, let's just move on. Number 94, TRUSTFALL by Pink. So I heard the Pink album last week, and there's absolutely no point in me covering it. That's heartbreaking, because I really wanted to say that she went back towards pop rock or had something interesting or memorable to offer, but with the title track here, it feels endemic of the entire album, even if I think this is one of the better songs. Yeah, Pink's still a great singer, she's gonna commit to it, but she's not exactly a singer with the sleek tightness to complement the razor-tight pulsating low synth from Fred Again. She's more soulful with a warmer tone, and it sounds like she's fighting through so many effects to drive into that hook that, you know, I could hear myself liking this song with the right singer, probably also because it was co-written and co-produced by one of the guys from Snow Patrol. And you know what, the sentiments aren't bad either. Hoping to take the leap with a partner, place that sort of trust in each other. But with so much tension in that synth line, I feel like we're missing a proper go for broke explosion. A guitar with some actual swell and crunch tends to help with that. Shame we don't have it here. And it's frustrating because, again, I don't think this is a bad composition or bad idea, but this doesn't flatter Pink the way it should. And whoever at RCA keeps telling her that this Maroon-ification of her career is a good idea, they need to be fired into the sun. Next, number 83, Lottery by Latto featuring Lucala.
If I let you unwrap all this in the sheets, if I tell you all my dirty fantasies, you won the lottery, you won the lottery.
Is this the second song where Latto is leaning on casino elements in her music? It was all over big energy and kind of felt weird there. I guess she's making it explicit this time. Guess when Dr. Luke finds an idea, he sticks to it. In this case, a pretty brazen riff on Doja Cat's Say So. And thus it's kind of awkward when I say that despite the painfully gimmicky nature of this song, Latto projects a shocking lack of strength and personality when it comes to this whole showgirl vibe going on here, down to using her own name as a pun, and that's already been done before. But this might be an improvement. Canadian Congolese singer Lucala's delivery on the hook is really strident, and minus the obnoxious stiffness of big energy with that sample, the light new disco groove here is actually considerably better, even if you could tell that if Dr. Luke could have gotten Dua Lipa for this, he would have. I mean, it feels like a better quality of ripoff, but it's also antiseptic and hollow because, again, it's Latto. She can't sell any of the sexiness in the same way Doja Cat or Megan or even Dua Lipa can. It's not a total dud. I got a strange feeling this is going to be huge, like a radio smash. The hook is that good. I'm not sure that's a good thing. Number 75, Ceilings by Lizzy McAlpine.
Wanna leave, but I have to go. You kiss me in your car, and it feels like the start of a movie I've seen before.
Whereas this was the sort of welcome surprise I was all about. I was expecting a breakthrough for Lizzy McAlpine after getting into her last year and noticing her remarkably solid connections, but this was not the track I was expecting for a crossover. Also have to admit, not one of my personal favorites from the album. Yeah, the gentle acoustics, the strings, the subtle backing vocals, they work for this sort of yearning where she daydreams a homespun romantic connection, where by the outro she knows that none of it's real, and it's actually pretty damn sad, especially with that firmer groove to build up the crescendo. But I also feel the song might be missing a proper bridge to really put it over the top. It's no Doomsday or Oh My Ghost, and there is a part of me kind of suspicious that she's being pitched by the labels as a more accessible Phoebe Bridgers. And you know what, that's not fair. Lizzy McAlpine's got great, very sincere pop instincts, and a knack for theatricality that really creates her own lane. And Ceilings is a really damn good song. But if there is anything you take from this, please go check out her album from last year. There's just so much better there. And hey, maybe give this some traction too. Number 69, No Time Wasted by Polo G and Future.
Patience, just keep your head up. I told you we'll make it. Can't get my mans up. I see too many faces.
I was saying not too long ago that I was hoping Polo G could deliver some quality in 2023. He made my favorite hit song of 2021. I was worried about oversaturation then, but he's had his pop crossover moment. He's got serious momentum, and even if I didn't expect anything from Future these days, I hoped this would be good. And yeah, I actually think this is really solid. I like how Polo G makes a pretty explicit parallel between football and gang culture amidst all the gunplay, and then reassuring the audience that this album with Southside is coming. I could wish for a little bit more detail, fleshing out the metaphor, make it a little more inflammatory, but it's a start. And while I wish Future was, again, more on topic, he does sound more engaged with his flow than I could have possibly expected. He actually sounds like he cares. If I have got more complaints, they might come in some of the production. The faded strings behind the trap percussion is good, but I think the tempo could afford to be a bit faster, or maybe just one more verse from Polo G to really drive it home, take it to that next level. But as it is, you know what, I can get behind this. This is underrated. Good song. Number 63, Heaven by Niall Horan.
Even if our love starts to go out of control, and you and me go up in flames, heaven won't be the same.
So I think a lot of folks are expecting me to be really excited about this. Niall Horan's Heartbreak Weather was one of my favorite albums of 2020. I think the promotion of that album stateside was outright criminal, even if he did get screwed over by pandemic timing. But hey, it looks like they're pulling out all the stops for him right now. I really want to like this, and Okay, you know what? There are parts of this I dig. The rattling bass groove, the heavier percussion. It sounds pretty great against the cushion of organ and the richer backing vocals. And Niall can sell a love song like this in his sleep, where the dramatic imagery kinda does match how big this song is swinging. But let's be real, this is a Harry Styles song. A pretty good Harry Styles song with the sort of glam and bombast I want around Harry's house, but it's not really Niall's lane. Niall's cooler, he's a bit more sophisticated and slick. His relationship songs are a lot messier and more interesting. I mean, I hope this is a one-off. It's not like Nice to Meet Ya was emblematic of heartbreak weather. His single choice has always been kind of messy. That reflects questionable management. But as it is, it's good, it's fine. But I know he can do better. Number 62, Watch This, ARIZONATEARS Pluggnb remix by Lil Uzi Vert. I know there are folks excited for a new Lil Uzi Vert album, but I also remember the eternal Take hype cycle that lasted over the course of years. I'm not the biggest fan of them anyway, and their camp's got a really bad habit of leaking unfinished or unpolished material. Hence we've got this, which is a SoundCloud remix based off of a leak that happened almost a year ago. And yeah, certainly sounds like it, where the bass is so oppressively loud over the hook that it completely drowns out the vocals, which doesn't fit with the glossier piano, the synths, and all the warbling. And what's kind of exasperating is that if this was mixed properly, I'd probably be okay with it, or even like it. Lil Uzi Vert's doing a Migos impression with their flow, and the content is, unsurprisingly, utterly disposable. But the flow is actually pretty tight. I think the hook's actually okay. But you know, thanks to EXO Tour Life going viral 6 years ago, you feel old now, someone in Uzi's camp probably thinks this is gonna work. They're probably right. And that's deeply depressing because there's a version of this that had the potential to be at least decent. Number 51, Favorite Song by TRUSTFALL.
Favorite song, look in the crowd, even nowhere to be found as they sing along. I say, you look good without no makeup, no lashes, even better when you wake up.
One of the weird things about the XXL freshman list is that when they pick up-and-comers that don't already have traction in certain spheres, they can slip out of view very quickly. So I'll admit, I did not recognize TRUSTFALL. Born in New York, moved to North Carolina, dropped his debut in 2020, made the freshman list in 2021, got signed to Capitol, and now it looks like he's got a proper major label push. And wow, someone at Capitol wants the clean and accessible version of Rod Wave really badly. I mean, it feels obvious. The chipmunked crooning to open things up, the piano and gentle guitars, the overweight percussion, just with more reverb and compression around TRUSTFALL's vocals as he's trying to croon to some girl and sing her favorite song. I mean, he's clearly trying to be more romantic, move away from a lot of hyper-masculine posturing. That's not inherently a bad thing, but I'm not sure there's enough detail or flavor here to differentiate him from artists like Rod Wave that just have way more soul and power and texture. I'm just kind of underwhelmed. It's not bad. Not sure it's great either. And finally, number 49, Hope by NF.
Like to introduce my album. Hope.
I mean, I thought we were past the NF experience years ago. I've called him the Christian version of Logic. I've generally been underwhelmed by all the bombast with so many filler bars to back it up, but he's charting more than Logic is these days, with this being his first new song since 2021. And, oh boy, for a song that's all about hope and turning your back on depression and darker thoughts, especially given that he and his wife had a baby, I'm struggling to buy this. I don't deny that NF and his producers are trying to make it feel huge, amp up that quest with huge, cinematic, wildly overcompressed production and his fast flows, and there is still this weird theatrical vibe to the touches of his production, especially in the pianos and NF's weak singing that feels kind of out of place. But I'm sorry, it's the same problem. For all of his inspirational posturing, none of it feels that personal to me, especially lacking in a lot of distinctive details. I appreciate him wanting to be a better father than his parents, but a little bit more to that, flesh out the story. Honestly, the better comparison might be Eminem's Recovery, where a lot of rage is trying to fill in for all of this inspirational fervor, but at least M structured his songs like jock jams. I don't think this is anything close to NF's worse, but for a song trying so hard to land so much impact, I'm sorry, doesn't really get there. And that was our week. Man, all over the goddamn place here. Although I think I wound up more positive than some folks might expect. The worst is obvious. Slut Me Out by NLE Choppa. But I don't really have an appropriate dishonorable mention, to be honest. Let's go to our best of the week. Ceilings by Lizzy McAlpine. And let's give 2 honorable mentions. Heaven by Niall Horan and No Time Wasted by Polo G in Future. Yeah, I'm actually going there. Next week, we are probably going to see some impact from Don Toliver, Karol G, maybe an album bomb from Yeet, so suffice to say my expectations are mixed. Stay tuned. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.